The topic of today's presentation is a case study of modeling lexical development in writing and speaking. There are three focuses of today's presentation to match the theme of the conference. First, we will introduce the theoretical models of writing and speaking to compare the differences and similarities in writing and speaking. Second, we will introduce an empirical study which observed 100 writings and 100 recordings of two identical twins over 8 months. And then the third focus will be we will use a mathematical model to quantify the lexical development of these two identical twins. If you happen to have any questions, please feel free to ask after the presentation. So first, we will start with the writing production model, proposed by Hayes and Flowers in 1981, the year when I was born. There are three major components in this model: the text environment, writer's long-term memory, and the monitor. Text environment is composed of writing assignment and text produced so far. Writing assignment is that learners have to take the topic and the audience into account when they write and writing. Writer's long-term memory is composed of knowledge of topic, knowledge of audience, and stored writing place, and so on. And this basically refers to the cognitive capacity of the learner to carry out the writing task. Monitor is composed of planning, translating, and revising. So first, learners generate ideas, organize these ideas, and set up the center of the goal of the production, and then they translate all these ideas into text, and then they revise the text. Inspired by this writing production model, Lavelle proposed the speaking production model in 1993. There are three major components of this speaking production model: the conceptualizer, formulator, and articulator. The conceptualizer generates the pre-verbal message, which also have to take the audience into account. See, from here you will see the communication intention. And then this pre-verbal message was turned into text in the formulator, and which involves the grammatical encoding, the phonological encoding, and the lexical. And this phonological plan was turned into a speech in the articulator. Based on these two theoretical models, we can find the similarities and differences between writing and speaking. First of all, both tasks are means of communication. They all have to take the audience into account when they produce writing or speaking. And as these are both means of communication, they always have to formulate the production goals, either casual or formal. For instance, a casual oral language could be a chat with a friend, but a formal oral language would be a talk, or like what I'm doing now, if you think it's formal or not. And during writing and speaking, there are three major processes to produce the text. The pre-verbal stage, where they generate the idea, and then the formulator stage, where they translate all these ideas into text, and then revising or the online editing. And due to all these sophisticated processes taking place almost at the same time, these processes also have to compete for the limited resources learners have, which usually refers to the working memory. There are two major differences we find from these two theoretical models. First of all is the modality of the production. Writers produce the written form while speakers produce the spoken form. So you will find one extra component, or we would say extra, but this component does not exist in the writing production, which is the phonological encoding. And the second difference is the automaticity. Speaking allows less time than writing for learners to select the words or to organize their ideas and to choose some sentence patterns they wish to use. Maybe they don't choose. Two studies have compared writing and speaking. Pendeling's study in 2003, she observed a group of beginner learners of German at college level, and she found that speaking has more difficult type of clauses than writing. But as far as the relation between speaking and writing is concerned, she found that there was no constant correlation between writing and speaking, but she found a changing correlation. So that is, she found a significant correlation between writing and speaking in the fourth semester, but she did not find this correlation in the first semester. So there seems to be a changing correlation over time between writing and speaking. Yu observed a group of advanced learners of English at the college level as well, and he compared the lexical diversity between writing and speaking. Lexical diversity refers to the varieties of words used. And he did not find any significant difference between writing and speaking in terms of lexical diversity, but he found quite high correlation between writing and speaking, which is 0.4. But this correlation was not significant. Maybe it's due to the limited number of the data points he has. As argued by Yu, his study only looked at the lexical diversity, but he has not included another dimension of the lexicon, which is the lexical difficulty. So a sentence like a barber had her hair permed at a salon had the same lexical diversity as a girl had her hair cut at home. These two sentences have the equal lexical diversity, but they don't have the same lexical difficulty because the words they use fall into different frequency bands. So lexical difficulty in the first sentence is higher than that in the second sentence. That leads to two of the research questions that we wish to answer. Is there a difference in writing and speaking in lexical diversity and lexical difficulty? And how does the correlation between writing and speaking change over time? Then we are heading to the second focus of today's presentation, that is the empirical study. We will introduce you how we carry out this study. We followed two identical twins. The left photo was shot when they were age 3, and the right photo was shot when they started the experiment, age 15. As you can see, they are identical twins. They look pretty much alike. They are both very lazy. They both love to watch TV, but they date different guys. They produced 100 writings and 100 recordings during 8 months. They produced the writing text based on the TOEFL writing test. So the topics of the writing test is from the TOEFL writing test. And they have to produce the test with about 200 words in length. Although their English proficiency is has not reached the level of TOEFL, of carrying this TOEFL test, but because the topics of these tasks are related to their daily life, so they don't find it difficult to generate ideas related to the topic. And plus, they don't set very high standard of the goal of writing, so they basically write as they speak. There's not too much academic writing planning in their written text. Similarly, the topics of the speaking test are also from the TOEFL independent oral test. And they were asked to record each topic for 2 minutes. And after we coded the data, 2 minutes recording is actually equal to about 200 in words. After we collect all the writings and the recordings, then we have to obtain the lexical diversity and the lexical difficulty from these texts. The tool we use to obtain the lexical diversity is the measure D. It is an adjusted metric of token ratio, so this measure is less sensitive to the text length. And this tool has been developed by Mackey, Melbourne, and Richards. As far as lexical difficulty is concerned, we use the tool developed by Mira and Mira Press in 2004, the V-size. This tool will be able to generate a value which indicates the difficulty of the word use based on the frequency band. We don't have too much time to go through how we coded the data and all the details, but if you refer to these two references, you will be able to find the manual there. And we obtained all the values of lexical diversity and lexical difficulty, and then we plotted them as you could see from here is the red line, the raw data. But the problem of observing the raw data is rather difficult because there is a lot of variability which will hinder the general pattern. So we have to remove some of the variability from the data, but without losing the major information. And a technique which is usually used for removing the local variability from the data set without losing the major information is data smoothing. And the technique we use is, one of them is the spline smoothing, which you can carry out in R. And you will get a smooth data line as the black line represented here. And you find it easier to understand the general trajectory of the data. But if we want to quantify the development, we cannot only depend on the visual observation. So we want to use the mathematical model to quantify the lexical development. So we apply the mathematical model, the hidden Markov model, to quantify the development. Hidden Markov model is a statistical random distribution model. It enables us to find the sequential development given the observations. So if you're given a series of data and you think there are 3 or 4 or 5 stages of this data, hidden Markov model will be able to tell you from which data point to which data point goes in the first stage, the second stage, the third stage, the fourth stage. But first of all, you have to decide how many stages you wish to train. And based on many of the previous studies, language development basically has 3 learning stages, the logistic model. If you are interested in this, we can talk about this later because it's not the focus of our presentation today. So we decided to train the development into 3 stages based on 4 observations: the lexical diversity of writing, lexical diversity of speaking, lexical difficulty of writing, and lexical difficulty of speaking. And we trained these 4 observations, the data of these 4 observations, into 3 learning stages. And we will be with the Bone-Welch algorithm and Vertebral algorithm. And we obtain the output of the hidden Markov model. There are 3 major outputs. First is the mean of each variable in each stage. Second is the covariance among variables in each stage. And the third is the data points falling in each stage. Now it's time to report the results. This four figures show the vocabulary size and the vocabulary density in terms of raw data and the smooth data. As you can see here, Gloria's vocabulary size is usually higher in writing than in speaking, but in contrast, Grace's vocabulary size is generally higher in speaking than in writing. But both Grace and Gloria's vocabulary density show is higher in writing than in speaking. This is the first output of the hidden Markov model. This is a table of Gloria. The first stage of Gloria's data is from data point 1 to 27. Stage 2 from data point 28 to 75. Stage 3 from 76 to 100. And the mean of vocabulary size and vocabulary density in writing and speaking. The mean of vocabulary size in writing is almost equal to speaking in the first stage, but there seems to be a shift from writing to speaking in her data because the vocabulary size is higher in writing in the second stage, but higher in speaking in the third stage. However, the vocabulary density is always higher in writing than in speaking in 3 stages. And this is very much the same as we observed from the general trajectory. This is a table of Grace. A bit different from Gloria's results. Her vocabulary size is always higher in speaking than in writing, but the same, she shows higher vocabulary density in writing than speaking. And this is basically what we have already observed from the data sets, the general trajectory data sets. And then this table looks at the correlation between writing and speaking in terms of vocabulary size and vocabulary density. And it seems that Gloria's writing and speaking shows more from a competitive relation to a more supportive relation, while Grace's writing and speaking seems to show more from a supportive relation to a competitive relation. So actually the correlation of writing and speaking seems to show opposite direction among these two identical twins. So now we are able to answer these two questions. Yes, there is a difference between writing and speaking in terms of lexical diversity. Lexical diversity is higher in writing than in speaking. But we can't say anything about vocabulary size because there is different results among these two identical twins. The second thing is, how does the correlation between writing and speaking change over time? We can only confirm Penny Lin's study where she finds the correlation changes over time. But we are not certain about the direction of the change because these two identical twins actually show opposite developmental patterns. So the correlation, one goes from competitive to supportive, the other goes from supportive to competitive. As we mentioned, similar to Penny Lin's study, we found that the correlation between writing and speaking changes over time, but we are not certain about the direction. Different from Yu's study, where he found lexical diversity is equal in writing and speaking, but we found lexical diversity is high in writing than in speaking. That is probably because his participants are advanced learners of English, right, who have more balanced capacity of writing and speaking, while our learners are beginner learners of English who have less balance of writing and speaking, and that might bring about these results, these different results. And the other thing is we haven't looked at the difference between writing and speaking in terms of syntax, or we should say that we haven't reported this part, because syntax and lexicon are inseparable. So if we have a chance, we could I could report that part. Conclusion. We have 3 focuses in today's presentation. We first go through the theoretical models to understand the similarities and the differences between writing and speaking. And then we introduce the empirical study. And then we use the mathematical model to quantify the lexical development of the 2 twins. Both the theoretical model and the mathematical model inform us the similarities and the differences of writing and speaking. And we could take automaticity as the starting point of understanding writing and speaking. Thanks for listening, and please try to propose any of the questions you wish to have.